Hey everybody, welcome to Assemble. I'm Matt. Good to have you here. Let's talk about Tony Khan, shall we? The man needs to stop, doesn't he? Now, Tony Khan was recently at the NFL draft, and he was sitting there, and he was sporting the neck brace due to his kayfabe injury that he received from the Young Bucks, Jack Perry, everything on AEW Dynamite in the main event segment, which I actually thought, I applaud him. I thought the segment came off well. And you know what? I give Tony Khan a little bit of credit because he's playing through with it. He's wearing the neck brace out in public. He's leaning into it. So good on Tony Khan for trying to keep the gimmick alive. I do appreciate it. But we do have some things we got to discuss when it comes to Tony Khan and kind of his whole approach with just he can't let things go with WWE. It's almost coming off as a little obsessive in my opinion. But Tony Khan was interviewed during the NFL draft. And again, it was kind of funny to see him that he was wearing the neck brace while doing interviews and even just sitting there during the draft. Tony Khan had these comments to say during the draft when he was being interviewed. He said, quote, AEW, we've been doing this for 5 years. We are the most successful sports startup since the AFL pre-merger. There has not been a challenger brand that has gained as much market share as AEW in many, many years. We are like the Pepsi of pro wrestling. Khan continued to say, we're up against an evil juggernaut. WWE is our competitor. That's who we are facing. AEW is like the Pepsi of pro wrestling. He likes Pepsi. WWE is like the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling. I'm really proud of what we do down here. So Tony Khan, for me, could have not did the Harvey Weinstein comparison and maybe just went with, I'm proud of my company. You know, there's a lot of ways that you could have approached this if you're Tony Khan. And this is part of the theme here of why I think Tony Khan really needs to stop doing these types of things. Tony Khan setting up a really fun angle on his AEW programming where he's got the Young Bucks making them the new elite and he's got their super heels and they took out the boss. And Tony Khan himself doesn't show up on TV very much, if at all. He does the announcement stuff. He does more announcements and then he tweets a lot. He doesn't really show up on television other than when he has to do something that's going to be like an announcement related. So him going out and doing a segment and the Bucks taking him out, I think is a good piece of business. It's the follow through and it's this seemingly obsessive position that Tony Khan takes when it comes to him versus WWE. And by all accounts, WWE does not view AEW as a competitor. I don't think WWE is competing with them. And I understand being like second fiddle, second banana. You want to be able to like show that you're in the game and that you are trying to compete and that you're like almost the underdog here. But when Tony Khan, who is the president, CEO, general manager, booker, and all of that, when he is the one going out on national television and bringing up his company, instead of positioning his company in this extremely bright light, where it's all about what his superstars are doing, what his wrestlers are doing, what they're promoting, he takes shots at the other company, which to me is a little unnecessary. It's fun to have jabs back and forth. WWE has done it in the past, and AEW certainly has done it as well. But you're coming off the heels of this whole CM Punk footage thing, and that was not well received by WWE fans, wrestling fans in general, AEW fans. And after, 2 weeks, people have moved on. But then you get something like this, and it's just another one of those things where you feel like, Tony, you should probably just stop trying to compare to WWE. Using the Harvey Weinstein analogy, I don't feel is a fair one, and I'm not trying to just apologize for WWE on their behalf. I just don't think it's a smart business decision, and for the optics of it, why? Why bother? Even if you do feel that way, that you feel that WWE is the giant evil mega corporation and that they are just a Harvey Weinstein thing, I don't even understand necessarily why make that comparison. Is it to compare like Vince McMahon? Because Vince doesn't work there anymore. And so to try and draw some really negative look of WWE, they're not doing the same thing. It's pro wrestling and sports entertainment, but they're not really doing the same things, and they're not on the same scale, and they're not very equal in that regard. What drew me into AEW originally 5 years ago was that it is and was an alternative to WWE, because the product back in 2017, 18, 19, when WWE was going through that with Vince, and it was bad. It was not fun to watch. 2019, AEW pops up. We got a whole new alternative for people to watch, and I loved it. And it was great to be able to watch both. And I still watch both. And I still enjoy it, but I feel like AEW continues down this path, and specifically Tony Khan, where he's just going after the competition. And it gets to a point that the louder and noisier he is about what other company is doing, and that company isn't responding, doesn't do anything other than, like, say, Triple H at WrestleMania weekend, talking about the grind. But WWE doesn't, go on the NFL draft in the network and start just saying anything and everything regarding Tony Khan. They might take a jab, like Triple H, for example, which they shouldn't bother anyways either. I think Tony Khan should do himself a favor and not look at the competition, because I don't think it really is competition. I think Tony Khan needs to compete with himself, and he needs to try to elevate everything. The other piece is that it can really start to sour your roster. And in my opinion, you're the leader and you're the head of it all. If your opinion is trashing the competition every which way and every chance you get, talking trash on social media, getting into endless arguments online about what WWE is doing, what your company is doing, I think you're allowing your wrestlers, your product, to come off as inferior and cheaper by doing that. And also, you're giving all of your talent and everyone that works around you the option to just go and shoot their mouth off about WWE and say anything and everything they want, or about AEW itself, because that's what you're telling everybody by doing this. You are the boss, and you are supposed to be the one to represent everybody for your brand. So if you want to take shots at WWE, what's stopping anybody on the AEW roster for doing the same? Because they still do take shots on TV. You look at Will Ospreay responding to Triple H's comments. You have the whole CM Punk footage. And there's other accounts in the past where AEW has done that. I kind of feel like, let it go. Focus on you. Focus on the product. Focus on your talent. Also, a lot of the wrestlers in your locker room, in my opinion, they got friends on both sides. Everyone wants to do well. And as fans of pro wrestling, I think that we are just looking for two healthy, strong products where a lot of people can get employed, can show off what they can do, to see cool matches and fun storylines and be entertained by a TV product, because that's what it is. Tony Khan maybe should have redone that draft segment. Maybe he should have gone in and talked about how Swerve is his new AEW champion. Talk about how you have Mercedes in your company, Double or Nothing, all of the cool stuff you're doing, versus taking that few minutes you have being interviewed and taking shots at them and telling everyone that you're the Pepsi and they're Coca-Cola. Well, Pepsi's a pretty big company in itself too, Tony. And I get what Tony's trying to do with that analogy, where Pepsi would, in the past for marketing, take shots at Coca-Cola, but you're not a soft drink, Tony. And week to week ratings indicate it's not going great, that fewer and fewer fans are watching the product and showing up to the shows every single week. The other thing is that I don't enjoy when Tony Khan makes comments like this, because it distracts from the AEW product. I want them to focus on their stories, because now this turns into the headline, this turns into the main topic of discussion and conversation, versus things like Willow and Swerve and the storylines and Will Ospreay and the Elite. I don't think it gets the right kind of attention, because there's no follow through with something like this. Tony Khan makes these comments about WWE. Okay, so is the expectation that they're a little bit more edgy, so hopefully more people are going to watch AEW next week? They aired and they promoted the CM Punk footage, and by all accounts, the ratings went down the following week. There wasn't that spike in interest, and even the AEW show of that footage airing, it wasn't like their largest viewed show of all time. So I hope that Tony Khan doesn't keep doing this, but I feel like he will at some point. But I don't know. I don't think it's worth the headache and the trouble. What do you guys think? Does Tony Khan need to stop these shenanigans. The neck brace is a good touch, Tony, but you don't need to keep doing it this way. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.